What's up, FasCat Nation? Today we are talking about AI and asking the question, will AI replace human coaches in endurance sports? And the short answer is yes, and the long answer is no.
No, not entirely.
Not entirely, but let us explain. We got a whole hour to talk about it. No doubt, 100%, how humans coach endurance athletes is going to change. And the coaches that adopt to the change and embrace the technology are the ones that are going to thrive. And we're going to tell you what we are, how we're embracing the technology at FasCat. But gone are the days of a coach spending most of their time on training plan design, data analysis, custom workouts, scheduling, and training plan revisions, because AI automates that. It automates those tasks, and it does it mind-blowingly well. And in fact, our very own CoachCat performs these tasks now. And we have developed an FAQ for you to ask and tell CoachCat exactly what you need in order to get a custom training plan, custom workout, training plan revisions. You can ask CoachCat to schedule your group rides, your races, your rest days, days you can't train, days you can train, days you can train long, days you can only train short. You can get CoachCat to give you advice on what happens when you miss a ride. What do you do when you get injured? Like, how injured are you? Are you upper body injured and can, pedal on the trainer? Or are you really injured and you shouldn't train at all? That AI takes care of all of that, including if you're sick. How sick? Like sick, or sick you can still train. So, and that's what a lot of coaches have been up to the past 20 years. And we're going to talk about, getting back to coaching fundamentals. And so, that's the name of the game today.
It's a hot topic. I was just this past weekend on my collegiate cycling text chat, like the old boys I used to race with 100 years ago. There were two hot topics. One was AI in general. Mm-hmm. Are our robot overlords going to take over everything? How long will we have jobs? Somewhat playfully, somewhat seriously. And the other was, came back around to FasCat and CoachCat with a couple buddies who have been on the app for a while, saying, it's eerily spot on with the advice it gives. I think we've all had some experience, trying different, AI things like ChatGPT, and sometimes the info is great, sometimes it's a little bit off.
Yeah.
So those are two hot topics that we're going to dig into today. Is what is CoachCat great at, and what are FasCat coaches great at? Because they're in many ways complementary, and that's what we're plowing ahead with, full steam ahead with both. It's not like we're abandoning one for the others. We're full gas on both, and both are exciting. And Frank was talking about how AI is like many tools that have come before, whether that's a power meter or whether that's training software. It's a tool that a professional coach can use for the betterment of the coaching experience all around. So just like when WKO came out, it wasn't one or the other. Is it a coach or is it WKO? It was like, no, it's a coach with WKO. And then for some athletes, just having a training software is a great solution. So I've got lots of questions, Frank. I'm going to throw them at you in addition. I don't know what all you've got, but I've got
I hope to have
questions
some
too.
answers.
That's what we'll dig into.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I would say to Ben's point, for the coaching community out there, this is a really exciting time, and we are here today to tell you no one's going to lose their jobs. You're going to be able to be a better, smarter coach with these tools. That's what Ben is saying, and so we're going to explain what we mean by that to you today, because it's a really exciting time, and there's a lot in the media about we're losing our jobs and all that, and it's like, you're not going to have to do some things. So your job description is kind of changing, and so that's what we're going to explain.
And if you want to look at what we're talking about while we're talking about it, head on over to fastcatcoaching.com/app so you can get going on your free month right now.
Yeah. First month is free. Check us out. Please see what your data says about you and interact with CoachCat. The biggest thing we tell new users is really engage, ask and tell. That's the two things. So CoachCat is going to ask you how you're feeling. Are you tired? We've tethered your wearable data to CoachCat and trained CoachCat to ask you or prompt you like what's going on? Would you like a substitute workout because your HRV is in the pooper? So it's at that point, don't just read the response, like engage with CoachCat. And oftentimes you're going to get a substitute workout that's better suited for you on that particular day than the prior workout that was scheduled. So it matches your recovery status. And yeah, it's been really popular. So let's read a few of the reviews about CoachCat. Eric Lehman says, are the responses I'm getting someone reading and replying to my comments? I ask because it seems like it is a real person.
Miguel Perea had this to say, CoachCat is a total game changer. The FasCat app is now like having a personal coach.
And Thomas Beitler says, FasCat's AI is miles better than Whoop's. Connecting my ride and wearable data to an AI coach is genius, and it's helping my training a lot. So there you go, listeners. And, like we were just saying, if you want to see what your data says about you, if you want to see what a real cycling coach trained AI can do for you, go check us out. We're on first month free in the app in the Google Play stores. And yeah, give us a shot.
In addition to asking it questions, literally all you've got to do to get feedback from CoachCat is connect your devices. And then as soon as a ride uploads, you're getting instant analysis feedback. So if you're shy with AI, that's okay. It'll talk to you anyhow. You finish your ride, it uploads, and just like, it automatically goes to Strava. You don't have to do anything. Same with CoachCat. It goes into the CoachCat, the FasCat sphere, and then CoachCat will give you some very useful feedback as soon as the workout is done. Particularly if you've got a workout lined up, it will compare what you did based on what was scheduled and how that fits into the bigger plan of your training plan overall. So in many ways, like Frank was saying, that's what coaches have been doing for years, giving you a plan. You go and do the workout, and then they will open up your file, look at it, and see, did you do what you did? Did you do too much, et cetera, et cetera.
Did you do it right? Yeah.
So CoachCat is doing that on the instant. Yeah. 24/7. And that's one of the many ways that the processing power of AI turns out is a little bit more efficient than a coach our coaches work hard. Lord knows they work hard, but they're not working 24/7.
Yeah. Not on Sunday morning or on Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, and definitely not Saturday morning. So, we joke and we jest, but, if you want something right away, ask CoachCat. You're going to we do customer service, and oftentimes lately for the past 3 or 4 weeks when we get a question, I'll copy and paste that question into CoachCat and get the answer, and I'll copy it, paste it back, give it to the athlete, and I'll be like, I didn't type all this. This is from CoachCat, and next time you can, you don't have to reach out to us, and it's a better, faster response. And if you want any follow up from that response, please feel free to follow up with us. Speaking
of instantaneous things, we've got a brand new coaching deal going on right now.
Yeah.
4-month one-on-one coaching. You get 4 months of our one-on-one hunt level coaching for $4.99. That saves you $400 because we also waive the $99 startup fee.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're still all in on coaching as well. It just really comes down to the training solution that you want and the price you want to pay. And so every 4 weeks with this $4.99 deal, you'll get a new custom training plan designed after you talk with your coach every 4 weeks on the phone or Zoom. That's going to include the FasCat app with CoachCat. You're going to get instant AI data analysis from your power and your wearable data. But then your coach is going to go analyze that data on a weekly basis and give you higher level feedback than you would from CoachCat. And you are going to begin to experience what hybrid coaching is like. This is kind of a new offering from us where you're getting AI coaching along with human coaching. And that's what we're podcasting about. So this offer is good from now until the end of April or while coaching availability lasts. You can hire a FasCat now. Go to fastcatcoaching.com/pages/hire-a-coach. Yeah. So, Ben, an athlete can literally tell CoachCat now, Coach, I have a 3-day work conference coming up. Will you revise my plan? And CoachCat will not only ask when the conference is, but it will revise the plan and do it instantly without having to wait for a real coach and also not having to pay a real coach.
Yeah, and just for clarity, for those of you folks who aren't familiar with the FasCat training plans, many of you are, I know, because you've been customers for years. We have unlimited training plans in the FasCat app, which scale to your available time to train, and many are event-specific, whether that's a Belgian waffle ride race or a steamboat gravel or road national, something like this. So there are already highly specific plans tailored to you to start with, right? And now where CoachCat can fine-tune it is in the same way, in many ways, that human coaches have been doing it for years. When real life happens, which turns out it tends to do from time to time, whether it's a work conference or a sick child or something like that, instead of waiting to hear back from your coach, you can just type in that question and have that answer and the actionable results delivered right away. So the workouts are moved around on your calendar and off you go.
Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. It's like Mike Tyson says, a plan is great until you get punched in the face. And, training plans are great, but what happens when you can't follow them because of work or weather, life, kids, soccer, sickness, injury, time, everything. So that's what CoachCat takes care of you for. And overall, it's 90% of coaches in the U.S., and I know this because I've been employing coaches for close to 20 years now, we spend 90% of our time online doing these 4 things: designing training plans, analyzing data, revising those training plans when life happens, when you get punched in the face, and scheduling events and vacations and injuries and illnesses, and then that high-level scope. And now you have AI can do all of that and do it instantly, and often do it with better engagement. And so now a real coach doesn't really have to do that anymore because the AI will do it for them. And so really kind of comes down to the athlete, what kind of training solution do you want and what price do you want to pay? And so that's what AI can do, and that's what AI is going to replace. Remember at the beginning of the podcast we said, will AI replace human coaches? And that's the yes part of it. And now we'll get into the no.
Well, maybe before we get there, maybe you could explain how it is that AI in general and CoachCat in particular can do these things. Not necessarily giving away all your trade secrets here.
That's okay.
But why, for someone who has never tried an AI training plan, why should I have confidence that the machine could build the training plan for me in a way that a pro coach like yourself or Allie or Ricky or et cetera, could do?
Yeah, so anyone familiar with AI has probably heard the term train the model. And what we did is we trained our model to be a cycling coach. And I worked really hard. We podcasted about this on the last time about the prompt engineering. We basically trained the model to be a cycling coach like myself that was an expert in a body of training tip knowledge specific to cycling. So imagine you want to go to graduate school and they have a become a coach graduate program, or maybe it's college, or maybe a class in high school. And there's this body of knowledge out there that's specific to exactly being a cycling coach. And that's what we did. And so these large language models are trained on, all our podcasts, all our training tips, all our YouTube videos, so that's how we made CoachCat so contextually relevant. And what, those 3 examples that we read earlier from Eric and Miguel and Thomas, that's how we did it. And you don't get that when you go to ChatGPT. You will get very vague answers. And the other way that we did it, it's tethered to your data. And when we talk about your data, we're talking about your power, your data, your heart rate data, your activity data, GPS, sleep, and wearable data. HRV as well. So CoachCat is a sleep coach. It's a HRV coach. It's your recovery coach, and it's also your cycling coach, because all that data is coming in, and CoachCat is like, I think we said this last time, what carbs are to Sepp Kuss is what data is to AI. It's like rocket fuel. I mean, when you think about, I think we said this in the last podcast too, it's like when you think about how a Tesla drives itself, it's because there's all these sensors on this car. There's radars and cameras, and it's taking in all this information, and it's making decisions about how to drive. And that's what we're building with your incoming data, and then also your existing data, and then the body of knowledge that we've trained it on. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Now let's talk a little bit about how FasCat with the CoachCat within FasCat is better at some things than coaches, and then we'll talk about how human coaches are better at some things than the AI CoachCat. So the speed, in addition to what you've already talked about, there's the speed of processing power as well as like the 24/7 availability. What can CoachCat do in terms of analysis that is in many ways superior to what any human can do, even a very well-trained human like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's the instantaneous data. And then also, when I analyze a power file from an athlete, I have to analyze one file at a time, whereas CoachCat can look at your entire data set, your deep data set, whether you have 6 months of data or 6 years. So we haven't quite developed the analytical capabilities of that insight. That's what we're getting to next. But when the CoachCat is responding, it is responding on, basically all your data, whereas a coach is like, oh, you averaged, 189 watts for that effort, and let me close out this file, and I got to go to the next file to compare that to whatever you did, 3 months ago. So CoachCat just has that tip of his tongue like that, and that's one thing that the AI does better than humans. As far as like context, experience, no, that's what a real world coach does better for data analysis than AI at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as smart and as quick as CoachCat is, it's not necessarily going to know about the specifics of a race or the weather of the race or how that last corner is particularly dicey and who the other competitors were there and the historical relevance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whereas a coach could well have all that and could be asking questions that the athlete might not even know were questions that needed to be prompted. So
yeah,
I mean, sometimes I get stuck on Google, like I need some information, I'm not even sure how to ask the dang question. So like, be staring at the blank bar, turning like, I don't know what's this thing called. I can't even think of the vocabulary to ask the question. Whereas a coach can help guide an athlete to that information that might not be even aware that they're missing.
That's right. So this is an instance where a real coach is smarter than CoachCat. And let's just, let's say you're analyzing, let's just say, I think the Mid-South, that was a great race that just recently happened. And let's use for the example, so like when I analyze power files, sometimes I'll have done the race. It's like, oh, I remember that hill. And you'll prompt the athlete, like you'll go and look at that specific piece of data in the race where this specific thing happens, like everyone goes berserk and you have to do like 800 watts and like the field separates and that's where the race is won and lost. A real coach is going to be way smarter than AI on that analysis. So that's like a good, that's where experience comes in so much now. It's like, what is AI good at and what are real coaches good at? And real coaches are way better at sharing their experience with athletes now.
And proactively too, not just reactively looking back at race files, but training for a race in particular. It's all about specificity, right? And knowing what to be ready for physically, psychologically, and even though we've got I don't know how many gajillion specific training plans within FasCat now. We don't have a specific training plan for every single event out there on earth.
That's right.
However, you can work with a coach who, if they don't already know the specifics of that race, will learn it.
They'll research it. Yes.
And apply their knowledge based on years of racing as a professional and coaching as a professional to what you need to do to get ready for that.
Yeah. No, so this is a great point to make about AI. AI is going to be getting smarter and smarter as we go along in history. I mean, we're in the first inning here, and GPT-5 is going to come out here before the end of the year, and it's projected to be smarter than Albert Einstein, and AI is just going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. So imagine this scenario, because this is what we were just talking about. Say that you are doing what's like a gravel race, Ben, that is not like mainstream, but is.
Someone just asked me, "Hey, you doing mad gravel?" I'm like, "Is that in Elbert, Colorado?" There's yeah. For every Unbound gravel and Steamboat gravel in Mid-South, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of excellent small regional races that you only have heard of if you live within a 2-hour driving radius. So there's oodles of those.
Okay, so let's use mad gravel as an example. Let's say you tell CoachCat you're going to do mad gravel. Right now, CoachCat doesn't know much about mad gravel, and a real coach is going to Google it and research it, go look at the Strava file, and then relay that information back to you. Maybe possibly
ask the other coaches on Slack, "Hey, has anybody done this? Has anybody had athletes
what's
who have
the
done
tire recommendation?"
Yeah.
Now, in the future, CoachCat will be able to do all that research, collate what tires recommended, what specific intervals are specific to this particular climb, bring all sorts of information and prompt the athlete. That's not where we're at in the technology yet, but that's kind of the future of AI coaching. So, that's one example of we're not there yet, but we will be there. And right now, human coaches are smarter than CoachCat.
Well, to that end, is it just a matter of time then before AI replaces coaches?
In that specific instance, yes. And what we're gonna get to in a minute is like what is coaching, and it's not that research particularly. That's just knowledge. Like, if you think about it, what is really a coach? What does being a coach mean to an athlete? And it's sharing your experience. It's being there for support. It's guiding the athlete along their journey to achieve their goals, and it's being there. You're the person that sees what they're doing and says, "Oh, let's change course here. Or, here's some advice about that I want to share with you." So that's where coaching is going to kind of gravitate to, and it really, honestly, coming full circle back to where we were pre-Power Meter, pre-online coaching, and so
which was where let's jump in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
What was coaching before data, before you had a Power Meter file to look at?
Most of the coaching was in real life, in person. If you were an amateur rider, there's no such thing as hiring a coach back then. You learned from the more experienced riders in your club, and you learned during the club ride mostly. This is before the internet, so most of the learning and the so-called mentorship really happened on the bike. And then for the national team athletes, that maybe the pros or the higher level athletes, this reminds me, maybe some of the older listeners will remember the Eddie B book. Do you remember the Eddie B book?
Yeah, that had been around for a while when I showed up.
Yeah. So the Eddie B book was essentially the body of coaching knowledge, and then then we had Joe Friel's Training Bible.
Yep.
Another great resource.
Yep.
And so that was that's how you got your coaching, and it wasn't coaching. This was a thing that that you could learn and read about. But back to the young national team riders back then, before online coaching, before data, Eddie B, Chris Carmichael, they would hand you a training plan, one plan, and they say, do this. And, they say, good luck. And, come back in 3 months. And the athlete could either do it or they could not. And the ones that could do it generally were the ones that made the team, so forth. And there was a lot of athletes that couldn't do it. And it was just too much training load. They just couldn't recover. And, this is old school. Like, really, a lot of what training comes down to for the elite level athletes is who can train the most and who can recover the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I was just talking with Pat Lemieux the other day.
Sure.
Yeah, he's an agent to some of the top level triathletes in the world, like Lionel Sanders. And he's like, we were just having this conversation. Who can train the most? Who can recover from it the best? Yeah, there's no secret tricks, magic bullet workouts. That's just fundamentally what it is. And so, a real coach is going to be able to really guide you through that. I don't think an AI coach is going to be like, give you lifestyle recommendations on how to train the most and recover the best. Maybe, but
currently CoachCat is absolutely measuring the volume you're doing, the intensity you're doing, how that's tracking with your training plan, and looking at your HRV and sleep to see how, to your other point of like who can train the most, who can recover the best, is seeing how you're training and seeing how you're recovering. And if your recovery is off, certainly can and will suggest, point that out and suggest, hey, you need to either back off the load or ramp up the recovery, if not both.
Yeah. Yeah.
That certainly can be done. With the talk about the psychological element. I mean, it seems like coaches have played many roles over the year, and some lean more towards just physiological, like just it's all about data. Look at the numbers. Here's the workout. Go do it or don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
also, at whether it's you're an amateur or even at sometimes especially at the high level, a lot of coaching is helping the athlete not just do the intervals, but like just get their head in the right place when something gets sideways in an event or life or workout or whatever it is, and help them get back on track. I know CoachCat's got different personas. You can have like a supportive persona or like the General Schwarzkopf bark in your face persona, but
tough love.
But it seems like there's a chance that the psychological element of coaching could come more to the fore as more coaches are using advanced tools like CoachCat to assist with the data analysis part.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So you talk with an athlete and you get them on the phone. You're like, hey, how's it going? And you can just detect
Not so well.
And that's, you're not going to see that really in data. Data can be very objective, but from a like a sports psychology perspective, there's some things that data doesn't tell you. And like you can look at an athlete when you're in person with him and you're like, okay, his body language is not projecting confidence, or man, you look like El Poupe. Like, dude, like let's take an off day. I don't think you theoretically you should see that in the data, but it's a real coach is going to see that. In one of the biggest things we pick up on in conversation is tone, enthusiasm. You don't really get that with AI and data, and CoachCat is definitely not going to pick up on that unless you're like, man, I'm having the worst day. Unless CoachCat is told that, CoachCat will not pick up on that, nor will it in the future. And so, like, I think a lot of while online coaching will be replaced to some extent, I think a lot of the in-person coaching is going to actually thrive because, there's nothing better than like motor pacing an athlete like that you coach, because number one, you're with them, so it's a one-on-one workout. But I tell you what, when you're motor pacing and you get to see an athlete dig deep to stay on the wheel, you know how motivated they are and how tough they are and how much mental fitness they are. You don't see that in the data. And it's just so to see it to see it visually, to also watch an athlete race, like what, you think about football, baseball, basketball coaches, they watch you race. And, so like this reminds me also of the time when I was working with the U.S. national women's team. Now, when I drove the car behind the peloton, you just see the race unfold in front of you. And You see the riders and you see the results. You see them before and after. You talk to them before and after. You're on the radio with them during, and you see how they're reacting and their psychology and how they're handling, the situation and the stress. And during a stage race, I didn't look at the power data at all.
Mm-hmm.
No need.
Mm-hmm.
Just saw the whole thing right in front of you. But in between the races, it's like, well, you're not seeing the athlete, so you're looking at the data. So that's a difference between like what a human coach will coach by versus data.
For those athletes and coaches lucky enough to live in the same place, that will be a great thing for sure.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the reality for many folks. That their coach is going to be somewhere else. At least we've got FasCat coaches around the country. Christians in France, we don't have a FasCat coach in every city in the world. For those who are looking at data, having AI parse huge amounts of data very quickly and provide that to the coaches, how can coaches see, so to speak, how their athlete is doing? Do you foresee there being more just like Zoom call check-ins? Is there more of that type of interaction?
Yeah. Also training camps and, seeing each other at races.
Mm-hmm.
So Zoom and like Google Chat video meets are wonderful because you get to see the athlete, you get to see their body language, you get to hear their tone. Are they upbeat? Are they down? You get to see what they look like. I mean, that's like, you don't really see what a person looks like in their data.
Mm-hmm.
You can, do the data thing. I think AI is going to be able in football and basketball and baseball, AI is going to be able to make data from the video to, like, I was talking with another technologist the other day. So like you take American football, they film those, every single one of those games
Sure.
and practices.
And coaches sit down and watch film, and a huge part of coaches' job now is watching video over and over to pull info out of that.
Yeah, so now AI can be trained to pull the info that a coach can glean from it. And so the debate is, can AI do that, or does it really take a trained coach eye? Well, what if a trained coach train the model to pluck out that information from the video? And so that's all going to happen. And one thing that's exciting about AI for endurance coaching, you could do a video call, it's filmed, and you could, the AI could say, oh, this athlete is 100% great in psychologically because they're exhibiting these signs and they're showing this, maybe things that you don't pick up on, or they could detect, this body language here, or this tone here, this word used here indicates this or that. So I don't, that may happen, but right now, like, a real coach is smarter, better than AI at picking up on things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Seems like the, what to eat and when, how to race, how, even things like how to pack your bike.
Yeah.
And not that I've asked CoachCat about this, but maybe I'll try this after the podcast. Hey, CoachCat, how do I pack my bike? Because we have certainly spoken about that on the podcast. Coach Elliott in particular had a lot of great tips there, which are now incorporated into CoachCat's body knowledge. But I still think I would feel more comfortable asking Elliott himself, hey, what should I bring to this race? Mm-hmm. Because as quick and sharp as CoachCat is, there's no substitute still for human experience in some realms like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, I have a Ventum bike, and the headset is sometimes tricky. And, will an AI coach say, hey, maybe instead of taking off the stem, you should take off the handlebar off the stem and turn the handlebar sideways, but don't turn the whole thing sideways. That's like a coaching tip. But who knows where we'll be in a year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the particulars.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to like the fundamentals of coaching, because, AI is going to free up coaches to do less data, less scheduling, and to do more fundamental coaching, how to train, how to eat, how to, turn yourself around, how to like pick up the athlete when, they have a bad race, be that person that is there for them. That's, you think about like what a coach, like that's when we say share the journey and help them along the way. It's guide them. Like, look, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, and a good coach picks up the athlete on the bad days. And so getting back to, Eddie B and how, give them a plan, you either do it or you can't. But then along came power meters. This is just, and then we had data, and then now we're exchanging data and we're looking at it. We're spending all our time looking at our data. And I think over the past 2 decades, a lot of coaches, myself included, we all became data coaches. And then we became like, there's this perfect training plan, and we're going to manage this training plan to the nth degree, and we're going to change it every day based on the data. And I've done that. I've done that with high-level athletes and plenty of masters athletes. And did it make a difference? Probably on a day-to-day level, but was the result maybe the same at the end of 6 months? Maybe not. Maybe the result was the same. It just didn't really matter too much, and we were just micromanaging.
Mm-hmm.
But so the data, the training scheduling, and the vacations. So a lot of us, we became that kind of coach. And I, for one, am looking forward to the new way of coaching, to get back to the seeing in real life, in person, at training camps and shakeout rides and, Zoom calls and so forth. Really get back to that fundamental coaching level, and still be, in tune with data and all that. But now you don't have to spend all your time on that, because what happened when power meters came along and online coaching, all the coaches, in order to support themselves, they're like, power is the way to go. And, you got to hire a power expert, and, you got to pay us more to analyze your power more in depth and more frequently. And that's how coaches kind of made a living. And now AI is just going to come along and do it instantly for a fraction of the price. And the coaches that are going to kind of shine and thrive are the ones that have experience. And they're the coaches that have that experience to share with the athlete. Mm-hmm. Like, I've done this race before, and I can tell you exactly how to train and what to prepare for and look out for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one nice thing about having experienced coaches is they've been there, done that, both mm-hmm. as an athlete and a coach. And it's one thing to look at a set of intervals by the numbers, but just the tactics of how to execute that, coaches can work with you as to, don't start off too hot. Start off at what you think is a sustainable level and kind of walk you through it. And quickly, like when you're talking about reading somebody's body language, a coach can get a sense of where they need to lean in more mm-hmm. and give you more coaching, and where they're like, okay, this person, they're dialed on this. I don't need to belabor this point.
Right.
Even CoachCat is not going to be able to necessarily sense that unless you go back and forth with dialogue. And it can get there, but mm-hmm. I think a human can get there much faster. One thing I enjoyed about talking to the FasCat coaches is asking them what their experience is like with different athletes. And the answer, as you expect, is, well, it depends. Mm-hmm. Some athletes, there is a lot of emphasis on what nutrition looks like.
Oh, yeah.
In the kitchen, on mm-hmm. the bike, off the bike. And some, they're like, these people they've been doing it for a while, they've got it pretty dialed, and they can make some little tweaks here and there, just like a coach, whether it's a basketball coach or a football coach, can mm-hmm. see like, okay, that these things are pretty dialed. These things are kind of stinky. Let's work on the stinky thing.
Yeah. Let's concentrate on areas of opportunity, and you're dialed in this area, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel there. Yeah. One thing we were talking about in a meeting just yesterday with the coaches, we were talking about mental fitness, and the question came up for coaches to ask the athlete, what are you thinking about when you're doing an interval? What are you thinking about when you're doing a race? And that's like a coach prompt question. And the reason why we were discussing this, we were talking about we were talking about like our new coaching curriculum, getting back to fundamentals and mental fitness and talking with athletes about how tough they are, how well they're handling this workout. And so some athletes, we know, you give them a VO2 max workout and they crush it, and they're mentally they're good. They push themselves really hard. Some athletes, and this is independent of how good you are, if you're a pro or you're a Joe. Some athletes, they hold back, or they have negative thoughts, or I don't know. I've phoned in an interval workout before, haven't you?
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. I just bumped into Rob Arena, guy who won Boulder Bay, one of the Masters. And we were talking about how we're just like full of nothing but negative self-talk doing the stages ride. And just little tricks, some positive, some negative, to get you through different things. And that was a fun thing to talk to another athlete about. Yeah, what gets you through? How do you get over the hump? How do you get yourself set up mentally to do it? Is it like looking at this tree, like just hold on until you get there? Some people listen to music. It's interesting. There's just a huge variety of things, and many coaches have heard those variety of things, and put together a pretty big list of what works and doesn't work, and can
share that experience.
Yeah.
And so imagine power data analysis of a VO2 max workout. So in the old, back in the data days, we'd spend all this time looking at the power curves, and you averaged this many watts, and the first interval was this much better than the sixth interval. Now we're like, what are you thinking about during these intervals? And then diving into that mental fitness topic, because they've already gotten the instant data analysis, and that can unlock a whole area of improvement for the athlete that we've been neglecting up until now. And that it goes beyond just intervals. It's like, what were you thinking about in that race? Rather than like, the CoachCat will take care of the analytical data analysis, but like, if one thing that we can see is like, okay, you did 350 watts for the first hour of the race, and you did only 180 watts in the 7th hour. What was going on in your head? Were you like chugging along, mentally fit, or were you like ready to, do the Bjarne Riis bike toss?
Yeah.
And so, and then it becomes this, okay, well, these are how gravel races are, and this is what to expect, and how are you going to handle this next time? And let's talk about that. I think that's what coaching. That's an exciting future of coaching right there.
I don't know if you were watching. If you're a college basketball fan, I was certainly keyed up for it. This just wrapped up this past weekend. Thinking about an analogy there of field goal, free throw, 3-point percentages. A coach could sit there and count every single one, where they were taken, whether it was made or not missed, and assemble all that data. And then based on that, if there's time left over in the day, give some feedback.
Yeah.
Or all that could be done, that could be automated.
Yeah.
And a coach could just get a quick printout of like, okay, you're shooting inside, high percentage, outside, terrible percentage. And now I'm going to tell you what to do with that data.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there and counting basket by basket by basket.
Yeah.
Or a coach looking at, interval by interval by. Yeah. Let the machine do that.
Yeah.
And then take that information and make it actionable in a way that you can gauge as effective or not for that particular athlete.
Yeah, I think free throw, coaching is there's not much. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of data in free throw coaching, but it really just comes down to your mental game. And I think like coaches can give that coaching advice during practice and maybe also during timeouts and everything. But yeah, I think that's a good coaching moment.
So what are coaches, speaking of like, so what are coaches doing to advance themselves as professionals now with AI coming on as a tool to crunch the numbers? so to speak. I mean, I'm aware at a somewhat outside level, like within FasCat in particular, there's a lot of coaching advancement and sharing of knowledge. But where do you see coaching going as far as what coaches are doing to prepare themselves to better assist athletes in a way that AI can't?
Yeah. I think one of the highest level answers is be better at teaching. Good coaches will teach the sport, teach you how to train, teach you how to eat, teach you how to, win a race. I don't think you're going to get much how to win a race from data. So that's what the role of a coach is. I mean, if you think about it, a football coach calls the plays, or the quarterback does, and a good coach is gonna, or a director, you're gonna have that pre-race call or meeting or talk in person and be like, okay, here's your game plan. Like here's 3 scenarios to go through it. That's like real coaching, and like that's getting away from the data and the scheduling and the training plan management. But this is like, okay, here's how this race goes down. You need to be third wheel going into the last corner, or if not, you just run, it's like calling plays, so to speak. But teaching the sport, teaching the athlete how to reach their goals. That's what a lot of what the coaches, what we're helping the FasCat coaches develop, the like so-called curriculum. I'm trying to pull up our we have like a new coaching curriculum where it's more teaching and less data, and I am not going to be able to pull it up on the top of my fingertips right here, but what we're developing topics and bodies of presentations, all the things we've talked about, like nutrition, like here's what you should know about your training zones, cycling training zones, and why we give those to you. What, here's a high level conversation about periodization, what we're going to do throughout the year for your training. And here's, a module on mental fitness, and here's a module on, technology and how to, these days, there's a lot of teaching that goes along with syncing data and, keeping it all straight. We take it for granted, but it's complicated out there, you guys. I feel for you, And, the other thing, I was speaking with Coach Jake this morning, the whole thing about the export your workout to your bike computer in Zwift. I mean, we talk about this on a daily basis, practically. These are all coaching moments. And listeners or athletes out there, you do not need to do your workout down to the second. and so goes to how to go back to how to train. And that's the thing. Like, look, you do not need to export your workout to your bike computer and do these 3x10s down to the second. Like, here's like considerations, like get to where you want to be, whether it's 20 minutes, 40 minutes. I mean, these are all the things we podcasted before. But overall, I'm sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but most of it is like teach.
Yeah. And in that regard, having human coaching can be not just superior, but just easier than a machine delivering it. Just like I was telling you, I was just seeing Rob on Flagstaff. My plan called for 3x15 on Sweet Spot, and it is synced with my Garmin, so there it was. So yeah, I was going to follow that.
Oh yeah.
But, bumped into a couple folks, met this Kid CU rider, no route at the bottom of Flag, and so I'd like very anally like, well, I need to pause my workout here. So
can't talk to you.
And then saw Ethan coming down, and there, what I'm trying to get at is I spent way too much mental energy trying to get my computer configured to what I was doing, when all I needed to do was 3x15. Just get to the bottom, press the lap, do 15 minutes, come back down, ask Frank to turn off his notifications so it's not binging on the podcast, and then do it again. But and like I know that you and I have talked about this at length. I have told other people to do this, but for whatever reason, when there's a little computer telling you to do something, many of us feel compelled, like we want to be good students, we want to do the thing, and it's easy to get swept up in there.
Yeah.
And CoachCat will tell you, like, here's your workout, go do it, and you put it on your computer, and you can get sucked in that. Whereas a human would be like, look, you don't have to do that, or if you're a particular battery dies, you don't have to freak out. In fact,
right.
Do the opposite, and yeah, you're a smart person. Go do the thing.
Yeah, you just need a
come
timer.
Back, tell me.
Yeah. This is what Coach Jake was saying. He's like, I've never ever done a workout on my bike computer. I just use my timer. And
bike computers are great tools. Just like AI is a great tool.
Yeah.
And many times it's super efficient to have a tool there for you. You can do things faster than you could without the tool.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to have a tool all the time for all the things.
Yeah, and you got to be taught that, and it helps to have someone that's been there, done that, to tell you that. Because if you're new to the sport and you're adopting this technology, it may not be evident or clear right out of the gate. And so it comes down a lot to the teaching. One thing you just mentioned, also Isaiah and I were talking about this yesterday. One of the modules we're developing that's part of the How to Train is, it's this topic of FTFPing and where consistency is really superior to FTFPing, and it's like when to FTFP and when not to FTP, like when to follow the workout, when not to, and we already have instances of athletes asking CoachCat during the workout, but they're indoors. You all,
okay.
They're not outdoors. Although you probably could put a foot down and ask. But the thing is, then we get this, from athletes all the time. We get texts, Coach, I'm not feeling great after the first interval set. What should I do? You can reach out to CoachCat now. It's probably going to get a better response. But it's really teaching athletes what to do in those situations, because there's some reassurance and it's going to be okay. It's really, consistency is what matters more, and just moving forward. And you're going to have bad days and all that. And CoachCat will give you that feedback, but it helps to have that from your coach who's supporting you along your journey and understanding what you're going through and empathizing and being able to say, dude, man, it's going to be okay. And yeah.
Before we wrap it up, are there any points we've missed in the balance of AI coaching versus human coaching, as far as what's happening right now in big terms, or what's happening right now within the FasCat ecosphere, or even what you see in the future?
Yeah, one thing that we mentioned maybe about 20 minutes ago was talking about optimal training loads. What's we were talking about who could train the most and recover the best.
Yeah.
That's a deep data set, and we will be developing that. So like when you onboard, can you imagine you've got 2 years or 10 years worth of data, and you onboard, and our CoachCat analyzes your data and says, in 2018, you had your best year in terms of FTP, and here's why: because you were recovering great for these 3 months before this performance goal, and your training load was this, and that's something to replicate in the future. Whereas manually, that's going to take a real coach a long time. We do historical data analyses for new athletes, and we spend hours going back through their data, looking at their performance manager chart. And you have to ask the athlete, how are you feeling during this period of time? And you have to cross-reference that with their power output. And then you have to say, were you really going full gas in this instant, or was this like half gas, or was this an 8 out of 10 as opposed to 10 out of 10? There's a lot of back and forth, consulting work to do. And the deep data analysis is on the way, especially in terms of what optimal training loads are, whether that's for, a Tour de France rider or an Ironman athlete, or really for the Masters Joe. Like one thing, me personally, I'm working on this year is, I'll relate this to you all. I don't have that much time to train these days. My thing, I was just telling another rider, they're like, how's your training going? How much do you train each week? And I was like, I was embarrassed. I was like, I don't know, 7 hours. And they were like, okay. And, I used to, easily do 10, 12, 14 hours a week when I was had more time and younger and all that. I was really big into training load, and y'all know it because y'all have heard it, that CTL, and we've done the Masters Training Load podcast, and you want to get up into the 80s and 90s. But one thing I'm experimenting with, me personally, like my training load is like in the high 40s right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty bad, but my power is pretty good because I've been doing intervals over the winter. I've been doing Zwift races, and I've been doing hard group rides. So where I lack in endurance, which I plan to get now that the good weather is coming and the days are getting longer, I've been doing intervals, and so this is it's new territory for me because my power is pretty good. My endurance isn't great. And there's data behind that. And how can we use that for athletes that don't have a lot of time to train? So we can,
which is most of us.
I know, right? So like, we've preached this, like, okay, got to raise your training load, got to raise your training load. But there's a certain phenotype of rider out there. It's like, well, if you've been cycling for a long time and you got a lot of miles in your legs, maybe we just do intervals, or maybe we concentrate on this part because we know you're going to be able to ride more when the summer comes. And so that's like the reverse periodization. Do your intervals in the winter.
I was about to say, it sounds a little upside down from what many folks have read or preached for years, but many different ways to skin the FasCat.
That's right. And so to have that analytical insight that, hey, it's okay that you can't ride 2 hours a day, 5 times a week, do this instead with the time that you do have. It helps like training strategy as well.
Yeah, and it'll be great to, again, looking at my non-existent crystal ball, have that deep data set, not just for an individual, but for a host of individuals, so you can do some cross-referencing as to what will this, like reverse periodization, so to speak, how does that work, not just for you, but how does that work for all the athletes who have done it?
That's right. I think even more in more simple terms, a lot of times when an athlete hires us, they're like, Coach, this happens pretty early on. Okay, Coach, I've hired you. How much faster am I going to be?
Right, sure.
It's kind of the $1 million question.
Sure.
It's like what.
Show me the FTP money, Coach.
Show me, can I get up to 310 FTP? Am I going to crack the 250 watt FTP ceiling? Now with data, we can do that. And it's like, okay, we can onboard them. We can look at what they've done in the past, and we can say, if you do this much training, you're going to be this much faster. So here's your training load now. If you keep up with this trajectory and you do this training over the next 6 months, your FTP is going to be this. So I think a lot of athletes will have a couple of options of like, do you want to choose the 300 watt ceiling option, or does your life support the 250 watt ceiling, or do you not even care? It really just kind of comes down to your goals, but at least you'll have the data and the analytical insight to know.
Absolutely. So if and when you want to explore these options, which I know you do, we've got two ways to go. We've got CoachCat, and we've got our FasCat coaches. If you go to our website, you can jump right into experiencing both of them. On the homepage, there's 2 buttons with CoachCat and hire a coach.
Yep.
And to hire a coach, there's a onboarding
new athlete questionnaire.
Thank you. I was just got stuck on the verbiage. Yeah, that gets you plug in to have a free consultation with a coach. The FasCat app, you can try for a free month. And with our new deal now through the end of April while supplies last, you can have the best of both worlds. Again, that's one-on-one hunt level coaching for $4.99. Head on over to FasCatCoaching.com to explore those options, and we look forward to speaking with you soon, either in person or via our pal, CoachCat.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. And seeing you at the races, hopefully, or the group ride soon. So we will leave you with this. With the emergence of AI taking over online coaching, human coaches can now refocus on the fundamental coaching principles. And this is the essence of the hybrid coaching model we're crafting here at FasCat, empowering coaches to utilize AI's strengths while also reclaiming their time for personalized coaching that uniquely distinguishes them from AI. How's that sound, Ben?
That sounds like I can't follow that up. But let's say thanks for listening, folks. We appreciate you, and we'll be talking to you next week.
Yeah, remember, consistency is the new way to FTFP. And work hard, ride fast, have fun. Thanks for listening.